Welcome, everybody, to the AI Adopters Club. Today, you'll learn how to kill AI fear, spot real solutions, and dodge costly blunders. And I'm here with my friend John Sticks. He's the founder of Nucleus AI, who also built Fibernetics and led the telecom company through, I would say, kind of a major tech shift. John, why
Mm.
don't you tell us how you stopped seeing AI as the enemy and started using it as an advantage?
Hey, Camille. Well, first off, it's awesome to be here. Super excited. Always great to have our chats. In this case, it's a part of a podcast, so even better.
Yeah, anytime I
Yeah,
get the
so
chance, man, you know it.
yeah, love it. So, Fibernetics was really a dream. I'm going to go over that really quickly,
Yes,
but here in
please.
Canada, Fibernetics was really just a dream in a basement with three guys. And 20 plus years later, it's one of the larger privately held telecommunication companies in our country. Last month alone, as an example, we did 600 million minutes of data on our infrastructure alone. But over that period of time, the founders have remained the same. We're still part of the same company, still together, but we've always had an entrepreneurial thirst, I would say, a little bit of an itch that we need to scratch from time to time. And we were just entrepreneurs that one day had some gray hair that people called businessmen. And when AI was coming along, we were already dabbling in, what we thought it could do. But you speak about the fear and the breakthrough, and this I think is really a polarizing aspect that many leaders are going through right now in their companies. Over a 20-year company, there's legacy systems. Even if we are a technology company and we're trying to keep on top of that, there's legacy systems, there's legacy processes, not to
If at all,
mention,
right? If
right,
I come across oftentimes that there are no processes that are documented or anything like that, right?
or that. Yeah,
Yeah.
good point. And then of course, we celebrate a big time, by all intents and purposes, a very successful workplace culture. And with that, we have some deep relationships. And so, a lot of our people have been with us for, over a decade. And so there's the fear of relationship, a fear of loss of what that could mean.
Mm.
If I deploy AI wrong, how does that impact my relationships? If I deploy AI wrong, how does it impact my business? What about my IP? But yet everyone's telling us that we need to adopt AI, and we knew that. So really what it was reframing from fear and then realizing that maybe AI is the exact thing that can release our full potential, not only in our company, but us as entrepreneurs and leaders.
Mm. What do you see? Well, first of all, I love that because it resonates a lot with what led me to start the AI Adopters Club, which
Mm.
specifically is the story is this. So I was talking about AI in various circles here and there for the last 3 years or so now. And obviously, there's always this fear of being replaced, and generally, from a
Yeah,
perspective of even company owners, they oftentimes they just want to kind of focus on what they know and what they're good at, and they're kind of like
yeah,
putting their head in the sand. And there's a lot of uncertainty and fear. But then I went to this fundraiser end of last year. I started this newsletter in the beginning of this year, and what I noticed at the fundraiser is that people really resonate when you give them hope and
mm,
they like to get behind that. And so I was thinking, how can I put that into the things that I talk about AI, right? And so my approach is generally to help people enable themselves with this technology and all that. And that's why I really
awesome.
resonate with what you talk about, how you shifted your mindset maybe from fear uh, to basically a
Curiosity,
success-driven,
really.
positive,
Yeah.
right? So can you elaborate a little bit more on that? And also, when did it click? Was there like a moment in time or a period where you decided to shift like that?
Well, I'm blessed. I have a pretty creative business partner, but I would say that it was a bit of a process, but there were definitely some, those epiphany type moments. We just started looking at our core assets, like our real fundamental core assets of what makes us, you know, different in terms of how we've deployed our infrastructure, how we deploy technology, assets in terms of what types of products our customers have, our customer profiles. And so we started moving away from AI being a threat to how we do business or AI being a threat to take our customers.
Hmm.
And we started thinking about, well, what are the needs of our customers? And how can we use AI to reimagine um, our current infrastructure? And so what that led to was, oh, wait, we have all of these natural assets, like I call it an asset stack that we've just accumulated over a couple decades. And we thought, hey, wait a second. Instead of looking at it from a place of fear, what if we could develop an AI that leverages our assets and develop a product that we can then deploy that leverages those assets and gives us an unfair advantage? And so, what product can we create that's on our infrastructure that creates an unfair advantage where we can empower our customers towards success? And when we realized, oh, wait, AI can transform certain industries that we're in
Hmm.
a really positive way and have it be associated with or depend upon our current asset stack, we saw how we can transform our business for a new level of growth.
Mm. Yes, and actually, the way we got to know each other is because of a mutual friend slash client
Yeah,
of mine, where you're integrating this new company, this new technology that you're working on, and that's Nucleus AI, right? Would you
that's right.
mind explaining a little bit to the audience what this is? And then also what got me super excited to, maybe even collaborate with you further on
Yeah,
other deals is that you do have this infrastructure advantage that you just mentioned. So could you just give us a nutshell explanation what Nucleus AI's goal is and also how you use your leverage your infrastructure advantage for that specifically?
for sure. How about like just when I'm going to go from what AI, what Nucleus AI is now forward,
Hmm.
and kind of quickly, how we got here. But let's assume that there's 3 years or 2 or 3 years of stories interwoven in there.
Right.
So what Nucleus AI is a go-to-market strategy whereby we're able to leverage the fact that we have a voice infrastructure that we've built over a couple decades where we've eliminated the cost of voice on our infrastructure. So it doesn't cost us anything and to transfer a call or any kind of voice interaction whatsoever if it's on our infrastructure. We also have millions, we being Fibernetics has millions and millions of phone numbers. These are real phone numbers that could be a local number in Toronto and in Canada or Vancouver. And we're able to then also work with some of our global partners, primarily in the United States, where they need to access to our infrastructure and we can then access their infrastructure. And by doing that, we are able to deploy, and we're also, by the way, our own software development house. So what we're able to deploy is Nucleus AI. And what it is many people have heard about voice agents, but arguably you would never have heard of a voice agent quite like this. Because we're able to leverage our cost structure or what we'd call unfair advantage, we built an AI agent to be deployed to democratize AI voice for every solopreneur, entrepreneur, small business in the United States and Canada to start. So Nucleus AI is an AI agent whereby you can have it set up literally within seconds. It comes with a brand new business phone number. It scrubs or scrapes, I should say, your Google business profile or your website. There's literally 6 fields to fill out, and you have a free AI agent that you can deploy to assist in empowering your small business instantly.
Hmm. So tell us a little bit more about, your story of actually building the company. And in that, maybe what was there some sort of like a AI myth that you had to bust before anybody would actually pay attention to that new
Mm.
project?
I think we're still busting it. I recently really started to think about. how can businesses deploy it, and we're learning from our inflow of customers also, but we want this to be widely adopted. To start, we want to see 1 million accounts get activated.
Hmm.
But we also are realizing that customers and consumers, although very curious and interested in what AI can do, don't necessarily understand the value because it's brand new. And so, how can they associate, for instance, a free product with something that they've never used before that they paid for?
Mm.
And they haven't. So, what we're also embarking on is a deep education to teach people and allow people to understand, what's the true value proposition within this beyond the obvious. Well, if I have an AI agent, I guess I don't need to pay for a phone communication system any longer. That's
Mm.
true, you don't. But there's other value propositions like I'll never miss a call ever again. What does that do for my sales, customer support? I can get transcriptions on all of those calls and communications. And how much time does it save me and or my staff knowing that all those phone calls that normally that we have to figure out how to take are being dealt with and serviced? And how much more time do I get back to be able to do the things that I think are really important? And so we're moving down an education process of allowing consumers to really feel, touch, and experience, the true value of this emergent technology. And how we formed it, quite frankly, was we were just so passionate with it. We've done these rollouts before, like
Hmm.
spin outs, but we were so passionate as founders that we once we deployed the technology, Camille, we set it up as a brand new company and put our money behind it. We've also raised capital, and we launched successfully in the US and Canada a few months ago.
Mm. That's great. I love it. I've been playing around with it a little bit, as you know, behind the scenes. So it's
Yeah.
definitely exciting. Um, but you touched upon something I wanted to go a little bit deeper. When you talked about to executives and or maybe from this angle, ROI, like
Mm.
beyond revenue. One thing that I notice, and I do these case studies every week on how companies integrate AI, getting to true ROI metrics is a little bit difficult sometimes because
Mm.
this technology is A, so new, B, it's so
Hmm.
all-encompassing, and it really depends on
Yeah.
how you use it throughout the company. What are the metrics that you try to highlight when you talk to an executive of a potential, industry client of yours to so that they can track those metrics and really prove that an AI rollout isn't just a vanity stunt or something they can put into
Right.
their, I don't know, like quarterly report, but that it actually has an impact? How do you help them understand that?
Yeah, great question. And again, it's also there's tremendous amount of variables, as depending on the customer. Each business is unique to a certain extent, right? But I would say that we believe that the e- most efficient way, how about that? Most efficient and easily adopted way to experience a quick ROI is to start with voice, right? To start thinking about inbound and outbound calling, inbound and outbound texting, communication period with vendors, customers, to your staff. That way, it doesn't necessarily have to be deeply integrated into your data lake to get going. So part of the ROI is, well, how fast can you deploy technology that creates an impact in a positive way? And in a lot of cases, businesses are thinking, well, who do I trust and how do I make my internal data available to an AI provider? What's risks associated with that? And so we believe voice, or what was normally called a phone system, is the best path to start. And so the immediate ROI is what are the costs normally associated to that? And where are the failure points with your existing communication system?
Mm.
One, obviously, there's going to be some form of phone system or PBX cost technology that you have deployed, whether it be cloud-based or infrastructure-based. There's going to be your own opinion in terms of losses that you might be experiencing with how people are accepting calls, taking calls. What I mean by that is, let's say you have a sales staff that's, deployed. Is the phone system able to transfer calls seamlessly? Are they able to reach customers in a way where it's efficient with your existing phone communication system? And so we start to unpack the obvious and get to some of the more finer details. The
Mm.
obvious is, what are you currently paying? And what are some of your first call resolutions? What are some of your staffing problems? What are some of the costs that may have ballooned in terms of facilitating that communication system? We start there, but then that opens up the door, Camille, because there's so many other follow-on, so many other follow-on values that a successfully deployed AI voice system can achieve. And then those ROIs become very obvious based on the customization and the uniqueness of that business.
Mm. Makes sense. Now, obviously, AI is everywhere. It's very
Yeah,
hyped up. I know it probably
yeah,
better than anybody else. So
yeah,
I never call myself an AI expert because also I think when you call yourself an expert in anything, you kind of stop learning. But
right.
aside from that,
Mm,
there's a lot of companies that try to jump on the train and offer their services to their clients. If you put yourself into the shoes of your clients, um, and and you try to vet providers, is there
yeah.
like one question or one framework that you have to weed out the good ones from the bad ones, or anything that you can say on that?
I put myself in the customer's position. This is a difficult one. And I get it. It's like you said, AI is everywhere. So let's say I'm a leader and I'm going to my normal support type of group where I collaborate, like
Hmm.
a community. Might be YPO, it might be, you know, whatever type of community of entrepreneurs. We're all talking about what AI is going to be able to do for us. We don't know how or when in a lot of cases. And the primary question that we're seeing is, who do I use? And so if I'm a customer, what I'm seeking is, depending on the size of my business, I want to see experience. Why is that company going to be able to deploy what they say they're going to be able to deploy? How do they understand infrastructure? What's their corporate setup? Who's using the AI? How are they using it? What are some of the key metrics that are making it successful? And really starting to think about who the company is, as opposed to just being enamored by the displayed product.
Mm.
Because there are a lot of AI companies that have emerged everywhere. And Camille, it kind of reminds me of when on the dawn of the internet, right? It was just, it was an explosive, and we didn't know how to really utilize it in certain cases, or what companies that we should trust that have all of this, all of a sudden have a thing called a web page.
Mm.
In this case, we need to look beyond the website and get to know who the company is, and start really thinking about the questions that you need answered as a leader, because you understand your business and taking the time to do so. Look, I don't want to take away from any entrepreneur trying to make a difference in the world. And so what I'm about to say, please keep that in mind. But, nowadays you could present a business a certain way and it might just be one person in a basement. And I don't want to take anything away from their initiative. Awesome. But that might, if you're a medium to large scale business, that might not be the right provider. So take the time to understand infrastructure, how they understand it, how they integrate infrastructure, most likely, voice experience, and, whose AI they're using.
Mm.
Did they create it themselves? Where is it located? How are they securing your data? These are all top questions to ask.
Yeah. I'm curious about your perspective because of your, previous company, which is fair to say it's a legacy firm, right? Uh,
Yeah.
and I guess which under the radar AI shift do you see or may see in the future will force legacy companies to rethink their operations in, let's say, the next 5 years? Like, what's something that you see
Mm.
constantly out there?
I think once. I don't even think it's 5 years. I think it's, you and I both know, man, have you ever seen technology move this quick? I haven't.
It's
Um,
crazy. Yeah.
it's crazy. I think right now, your previous question was perfectly asked prior to this one, because I think right now everyone's trying to figure out how to deploy AI and who can I trust and who can I afford. Um, but moving forward, I think it's going to be when a brand name becomes established in terms of that they can be trusted in terms of interacting or helping you integrate AI into your data lake, and you being able to experience what it's like I've experienced where, I've called a customer's data lake and spoken to the data. And you being a CEO or a leader, where normally you would say, depending on the dashboards you have, or if you even have a dashboard, where you have to call someone in tech to get a piece of data to make a decision, whereby, soon you're going to be able to call and it will recognize it. There'll be security applications, built in, and processes built in, but being able to call your data as a leader while you're in your car, before a meeting, on a boat, it doesn't matter. And you can access that information instantaneously and be able to collaborate with the data lake in a way that it's conversational, and where the AI will keep a record because you want AI to keep a record of your previous conversation so that the next time you call, you can pick up right from there again. When the AI and your data lake becomes an interaction, this will enable leaders to make decisions at a speed that we've never seen before. And I believe that that time is right now if you pick the right provider.
Hmm.
Like over the next year, we're going to see that emerge. It's going to be a big shift. We're going to see testimonials out there where leaders are saying, I'm able to access key information at a speed and in a way that I never thought possible. And it's actually helping me make decisions at a speed that I've never been able to make
Yeah.
for my company.
You know, on that, I recently came up, I think I mentioned it to your friend and business partner, um,
Jody?
Jody,
Yeah.
last week when we were on a call. I have this new metric. It's called MBPW, and that stands for Minds
Okay.
Blown Per Week. When it comes to AI and what it can do, and how
Yeah.
when I show it to somebody, a reader or a client, they're just like,
Yeah.
they're sending me the mind blown emoji. I'm curious how you personally interact with AI on a daily basis, maybe. And when was the last time you, in the maybe last week or so or month, when you had like a mind blowing moment, no matter how
Okay.
small or
So,
big it is?
yeah. And, this really isn't about self-promotion, but it is with our own AI that we
Yeah,
developed.
that's
So,
fine.
because that's what I'm using all the time for obvious reasons. But I would say this first started when Jody, you referenced Jody, when Jody, my business partner, I'm an author. I wrote a book. It's called Discover Your Who. It's based on the identity of your organization and who you are as a leader. Anyway, he took my book. It was in PDF, loaded it up into our AI. I didn't know what he was doing. He just asked for my book in PDF. And this was going back again months ago. And he said, hey, call this number. And so, from my everyday phone, no matter who I use, what kind of phone I use, no matter what plan I have, I'm calling this local phone number, and I began starting to talk to my book. And my book was speaking back to me.
Hmm.
And because it's layered, this is on our infrastructure. We also have another division. It's our enterprise, Nucleus Enterprise division for large customers, because we spoke about the free product. And since he loaded it on the enterprise, what we call the Nucleus Core, we isolate all that information. So our AI, in this case, in this instance, was becoming an absolute expert only on my book. So the more I was talking to my book, Camille, my book was speaking back to me in ways that I'm not sure I would have been able to speak to
Yeah.
a customer or a reader. And so the reason why that continues to blow my mind is that, obviously we were elated and we were thinking this is mind blowing and our minds were popping. But what the guys did in the background is because we've developed phone systems and we know that industry, we loaded up what's called omni-channel communication. And the next time I called my book with my other business partner, Mike Brown, uh, which he was laughing because it was blowing both our brains. My book was saying, "Hey, have you ever read Discover You Who by John Sticks?" And I said, "No." And then my book said, "Hey, do you want me to text you a link to Amazon to order the book?" And I said, "Sure." And then my book said, "Do you know of anyone else, by the way, that would be interested in discovering their purpose and identity of the organization?" I said, "Sure." And we verbally said the name and the email. Within 8 seconds, our AI opened up an email, put a subject line in, a description of the book, and a link to order it and sent it out.
Wow.
And so,
Agentic.
um, yeah, it's blowing my mind. And even just yesterday or this morning, I should say, I was, on with a thought leader. So, to make a long story short, we've turned this into a product where now we can receive authors' books and take that book in a PDF, load it up into our AI, and for the first time, what we believe to be in history, the book is now alive, and people can SMS, text that book, speak to the book, and gain insights and information about that book real time. And the author sees data on the back end. What chapter got the highest interaction? It measures, our AI measures the sentiment score of the person that's calling or SMSing, texting the book. So now the author has data about those interactions regarding the book. And that was never possible. But I can't emphasize enough that when you start calling your favorite book and you can talk to the book about who the characters are and if it's fictional, and maybe even have an alternate ending
Hmm.
or a thought leader type of book where you can gain access information, for instance, around a boardroom table, and you could be accessing information about that great book real time with your team.
That's pretty powerful. And it
Powerful
answers
stuff.
your specific questions, right?
That's right.
Regarding to you, because that's why personally I love biographies, right? But the thing with biographies is that it's the easiest way for me to understand how that person would have acted in a situation that I find myself in. But now you can
Mm,
literally have that conversation about your situation with that author,
yeah.
right? Or the person that
Yeah.
that book is
That's
about.
right.
So that's very
That's
powerful.
right.
That's good. That's definitely a good mind-blowing moment.
Yeah, it continues to blow my mind because I'm
That's
thinking
awesome.
about it from the
Yeah.
product development perspective, but yet
Mm.
I can't help myself be a customer in terms of interacting with some of the thought leaders that have come to us and deployed and have about to launch their books, by the way. This is
Mm.
coming in June. Um, and I can't help but be also a customer where I'm interacting with that book and gaining
Yeah.
wisdom. It's amazing.
For sure. That's awesome. I got two more questions for you, and I wanted to zoom a little bit out to get
Okay.
your point on something you touched on earlier, me saying that, everybody can kind of start their own business now and pretend that there's
Yeah.
something bigger that they're not. So I would love to hear your thoughts on two more, I guess, business or growth related topics. And the first one is,
Mm.
did you ever have a flop that taught you? Like, what was the flop that taught you the toughest lesson, and how would you
Oh,
dodge that
wow.
trap today? Like, is there anything from that? Because we learn from our mistakes, right?
Gosh, I've made so many where, which ones do I pick from? I love what Will Smith says. He says, fail forward. I've never forgot that. I
That's
saw him
from
say it
him.
once,
Okay.
and yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw a video once. And
Hmm.
he just said, "Hey, fail hard, but fail forward." And so, I think like you, our failures, we can learn so much from our failures. But if I was to pick one, you kind of stumped me on that one a little bit. I would just say that, okay, I'll pick this one. How about we had this is really early on, so this is an early on lesson, but it actually turned into a playbook
Mm-hmm.
that we've taken 20 years forward. So maybe this is a real relevant one.
Mm-hmm.
And Jody and I were probably on number 9 or 10 in terms of failed businesses. And so this was our first one in telecommunications at the time. Here in Canada, deregulation happened in 1994. So this was 94, 95. And so we thought we had it all figured out. We had figured out a system that allowed two cities, Waterloo and Stratford, two smaller cities here in Canada, to be able to speak to each other instead of paying the expensive per minute, but for flat rate, like a flat rate long distance that really didn't exist back then. For $10, all you can call. In a bedroom community, we knew that phone bills were really high.
Hmm.
And so we deployed that. And everyone told us, by the way, before we were deploying it, if you can do that, we're in. But after we deployed it, we went back to all those customers and they said, "Who are you kids that you can do that? Why isn't why isn't the major phone company doing that?" And so after literally, Camille, literally in a tiny little office with a phone book back in the day, pre-internet, calling everyone about that they can call unlimited for $10 and knocking on all the doors, as many as we could. We had
Hmm.
75 customers. And so we thought, well, here we go again. We got about $800 worth of payables and $600 worth of receivables. So I guess we're not going to be in telecom for much longer. And Jody and I remember we were listening to a radio station that was paying for two families to talk to each other that couldn't afford to during Christmas. And for me, the reaction of the
Hmm.
kids and the families to be connected together and not have to worry about that they can't afford the phone bill, but that they could be connected even though distance remained,
Right.
like really was profound. I just they were so emotional about it. And so we went back and looked at it and we said, oh, wait, we've realized we built a system that eliminates the per minute. So why are we charging? Why are we looking to charge $10 when we've eliminated the cost? And so the failure was we put everything into it. We thought we had everything figured out. We built the business plan, threw it against the wall. Let's go. And boom, what we didn't realize was buying habits changed, credibility, changing people's daily habits are hard. And so we thought, well, if we've eliminated the long distance, what if we do something incredibly radical and make it free? Now, remember, this is way before the word freemium existed.
Right.
And we thought, well, we could do 4,000 calls a day if we make it free, but we're going to somehow have to figure out how to pay for that.
Hmm.
We're going to have to pay for the phone lines that we used in the system to that we built together to eliminate the permanent costs. And so we thought, well, okay, but will we get usage? Yes, we should. So then let's do that, and we'll figure out how to make money later. So we changed it that it would be free, and then we thought, well, who would want to pay us for it to be free?
Hmm.
And so we went to various different businesses and a local GM dealer. I'll never forget, Gary Stocky Shebold's Cadillac said, I'd love to pay for a system that eliminates all the long distance for Stratford to call Waterloo. And we said, okay, well, we'll even get you a special phone number, 662 Gary. And so that failure then turned into a legitimate pivot and a forced innovation
Hmm.
to see something completely different that was already fundamentally deployed the same way. We were just changing the way it was being communicated.
Hmm.
Anyways, to make a longer story short, he came on board. There's a funny story. He said, "What do you guys want for it?" We stared at each other in front of his desk and we said, "A car and X per month to cover the costs." He said, "Sure." We went to the local paper the very next day and said that Gary Stocky Shebold's Cadillac was paying for the whole city to talk to this city for free. And we ended up with two-thirds of all the households using it inside of a month.
Hmm.
And so now we had all our costs covered and we had massive market penetration. And we replicated that over systems right across our province of Ontario. And what we had realized was a new way for us to gain large market share by partnering with someone that already has the credibility and distribution in the marketplace.
Hmm.
And we've run that playbook now for plus 20 years.
I love that. I actually heard that from somebody about 10 years ago. That it's really important to start with a distribution channel in mind. And I also
Mm,
noticed that in my own startups in the past. Definitely, like building this stuff from scratch is just you're it's an uphill battle. And even to the point where I like to say now, you know how they used to say your ideas are great, but it's all about execution. Well, now it's
yeah,
not about even execution anymore because you can almost
right.
wish everything into place. Like I'm literally working on a SaaS
Wow.
right now, or uh, and that has
Wow.
like a
Yeah.
completely something that I don't have anything to do with, but I think it's a great business. So it's not execution anymore. It's not the idea, although there's still important elements, but it's about distribution, right? So it's very timely, I
Wow.
think.
I
Um,
got one more real quick one, if
yeah,
I
yeah,
may,
please.
that just came to my mind, and I'll be super fast with this one. But I would s- I would say to honor myself, I got to say this: a big failure point is assuming what people think.
Hmm.
I mean, in terms of your business partners and who you work with. I'm a big workplace culture guy. I believe in a certain type of leadership, and I had to really fail in thinking that I understand what people are thinking, or why they're saying what they're saying, to
Hmm.
be able to break away from that cognitive bias and start thinking about, maybe, how do I grow, and how do I embrace things as a leader, like empathy, or seeking to understand. And so I think a big growth for the business and you as a leader is understanding that whatever the failure is, that's pointing you in a way that where there's bad, there's also great good.
Hmm.
And so if you can use that pain to see what the potential is to how you can change, then the situation itself can also change for the good.
Makes sense. I got a last question for you here, and we talked about this a little bit off camera. People ask you all the time, John, what business should I start? How do I start the right
Yeah.
business and all that? You have an interesting answer to that. You want to elaborate? What's
Yeah,
your first
thanks.
advice?
Yeah, and that's a real recent one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. I'm asked that a lot and happy to share. And I'm quick to jump on business plans, I would say, or your vision statement and some of the more obvious dynamics of what makes a business great. But what I've realized with some introspection is, I think it's about seeking, instead of trying to figure out what business to start. I would recommend that you start to seek and find the person to do it with, the friend that you can share all the memories with, that believes in your dream, where you can come together and the dream morphs. And to me, being able to go through the great times and also the difficult times with someone that you can trust and whom trusts you, you inevitably will find the path of business. And in the course of doing business, you will have a greater chance to ultimately reach your biggest goals, because you can leverage each other and you can
Hmm.
build upon each other, and build upon the dream. And so to me, it's seek first and go find the friend or the relationship where you guys just come together effortlessly and you believe in each other, and then go deploy the business. And I almost don't call it business. Like, I think you're really, what it is life and passion. You're sharing that.
Hmm. I love that. And I actually I have a draft for a book that um it's a kind of like a version of a book that I found about marriage. So it's called like 101 questions you need to ask your partner if you want to get married. So I turned it
Mm.
into 101 questions you need to ask your co-founder before you start a business. Now it's not out there
Wow.
yet, but if I do it, would you maybe commit
Yeah.
to writing a foreword for that?
I'm in.
I
I'm
think
in.
that's
Yeah, I
awesome.
love it. I love it. That's
I
awesome.
put it on
Wow, I didn't
shelf. I
know
didn't
that.
really do anything with it, but now that you talk about it,
Okay.
I think it would be cool to actually put it out
Yeah.
there in the world.
Yeah, you should.
I'll
Yeah.
let you know.
Yeah. And you know what's cool is there's this thing called AI now that can help you.
Oh, trust me, I'm not even calling myself a writer anymore. I'm just a publisher and an editor in chief. That's all. I'm not gonna pretend.
Yeah. 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 Get that out. That's awesome. And happy to
John,
be a part of it.
thank you so much, man. This was really,
Thank you.
really cool, very insightful. If people want to know more about you and your business, where do we send them to?
Yeah, nucleus.com, please. And I'm on LinkedIn as well. So John Stix, it's Stix, and happy to accept your invitation and we can go from there. But yeah, awesome, brother. Love being on it.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank
Really
you.
appreciate it. We
All right.
put all the links in the description below. Thank you, everybody, for being here on the AI Adopters Club. John, thanks
Yeah, thank
again.
you.
We'll talk soon again and have a wonderful
Awesome.
rest of the day, okay?
Yeah,
All right.
awesome. Thanks,
Take
guys.
care.
All right. Okay, bye.